Tea. I love it. I have tea with me too. There's actually, the song goes with the story. You know how I like my stories. It has been, Billy is still here. Oh, hi. I'm seeing so many names I haven't seen in a long time. It's so good to see your names. And some of you that have little faces too. Yeah, so Billy is around. I'm at my house, so Puppy's around too. They're both very loud, and they both love to interrupt, so I promise they will make an appearance. It's so good to see you all. So we're going to make sure we do something beautiful with this time because we don't want to waste your time. Remember, we always have to put everything into perspective. And if you're even trying to heal or focused on healing, the whole point of healing is so that you enjoy your time even more, so that it's enriched and so fully alive that you don't ever regret a moment because you lived them all, experienced them all, tasted them all, no matter what the flavor was. Sometimes we get bitter ones. We all have things we're going through, but it's the totality of life that is the deliciousness. It's not always just getting the sweets, right? Imagine if all you could eat was just sweet. I had to remind myself this past month, that sometimes you have to eat stuff that's bitter and it brings its own healthy benefits, right? And sometimes life gives you the sweetness, and when it gives it to you, you eat it in its fullest amount, and you enjoy it and incorporate that into your being. So I wanted to add my story before I forget and get into this day. We're going to start here, and then for all of you on the subscription page, this is kind of just the little hi, I'm here, and we're going to go over there right after this. So the story that kind of matched that song today, I love when things, those cosmic winks, when things communicate with you and to you and for you in the moments that you need them the most. And I actually talked to my father today, but I have this little notes on my phone, like everyone has, and I take notes of when people give me insights and inspirations, or words that really moved me, or little stories or things that I pay attention to when I'm out and about. And one time my dad told me this story. He is from West Texas, so he grew up on a farm, and one second. Okay, we're back. So my dad grew up on a farm, and he had many animals, and one of the stories he told me one time was that he had a dog. And I'm looking at my notes right now. So he had a dog, and his uncle asked if it bothered him when the dog passed away, because he was really upset about this dog passing away, and he just couldn't understand it as a kid. And his uncle asked him if it bothered him, and he was like cowboy, West Texas tough. And my dad, of course, said yes. It bothered him a great amount and made him really sad. And his uncle said, good. That means you're going to be okay. And that was the end of his conversation. And then he said that you wouldn't want it the other way, and walked off. And my dad told me that story in a time, that kind of fits right now, even of everything that's going on, right? And so often we want to not feel what we're feeling. We want to not feel the overwhelm. We want to not feel the pain. We want to not feel the anxiety. We want to not feel the stress. But that would be you not being alive. And instead of thinking that that's healed, we have to look at that as what is the exact opposite of being alive. Being alive is feeling all of it, and being alive with all of it, and continuing in all of it, and experiencing all of it. And the wisdom is how you learn to move through all of it. And that's saying the good times, the medium times, the flat times, and then the really hard times. And it applies so much to medicine when you can put this in perspective. Just like you wouldn't want a kid to not be sad when his dog died, you wouldn't want a body to not have symptoms. And if we can think of it that way, it really puts the sweetness on how we experience our bodies, how we experience our lives, how we experience our feelings and our emotions. And everything that comes into being a human. We expect to show up and have no emotion. We expect to show up in bodies that never show embarrassment, never show pain, never show inflammation, never show our depression, our anxieties, our overwhelm. I remember even just times where I would have a reaction to my body having an appropriate reaction. And, we've talked about this if I've ever worked with you, that oftentimes that's the work that we need to do. It's not to make the body not have a reaction, but to be able to handle our reaction to the reaction the body's having. And I personally had a particularly hard day today. Lots of stuff happened, lots of stuff hit. You can probably feel it in me. You can feel it in my heart and my voice. But showing up here is a service that I think is so valuable, to show up here even when it's not perfected, right? Because so often we show up when we're at our greatest, or when we want to present something that we feel really good about. And I thought today would be a different flavor of feel what's behind my voice, feel what might be pulsing through my veins, even if you don't know the story of it, to feel another human, even while, and that's the other beautiful part that I've noticed too, because I pay attention to people everywhere. And we often miss so much of the love that's given because we don't realize what's going on inside humans while they give, while they contribute, while they show up. We often, there was this one really sweet moment at my hairstylist a couple years ago that I still remember so vividly, because I was going through a hard time in a relationship I was in. And one of the stylists was outside of the salon on the phone crying because she had lost her father. And he was in a different state, and I was just overhearing pieces of this conversation. But she was in tears, and there was so much pain. And I remember just like watching this, and then, because I was in my car and she didn't see me, watching her dry her tears, walk in, and go and serve somebody and do their hair and make them feel beautiful in a moment where she was aching. And after that client, she was going to end the day and leave to go take care of what she needed to take care of. And watching that was like this beautiful moment for me of, that's love. We miss so many whispers of love because we're wanting the world to seduce us, shout at us, validate us, and like scream things, when it's in the whispers that you hear the truth. And it was such a beautiful moment for me because I watched that and I felt that, and I felt how her love was in her grit to go back in those doors and give to the woman she gave to that had no idea what was going on, and give to her with the fullest that she could give before she left for the day. And I know as a practitioner, and if you're a practitioner, or if you're just a human, we've all done this to some degree, where we, there have been moments where I have had to take pauses because of my standards for my practice on when I would show up and when I couldn't. And I held that in such high regard that it really, was challenging in a few chapters of my life. And but all humans do this. And so I wanted to bring attention to it, because even in this moment for me, is this the time where my heart's the lightest? No. Is this the time where my voice is the most, like, the biggest and the fullest and the most powerful? No. Does that mean it doesn't exist? Also, no. And what if it means that there's more love in the showing up here than in the days where it's easy to show up? And what if you started looking around you in the times where people showed up when their best wasn't even them at half full in their hearts and their spirits and their souls and in their minds? And can we find this, at the grocery stores? Can we find this at our salons? Can we find this in our schools? Can we find this in our communities? Can you look for how people are loving in a way that would blow you away? To know oftentimes what we're feeling, not oftentimes, all the time, what we're feeling impacts us the most. And to be able to put yourself aside to show up and give, to show up and offer a service, to show up and just to show up and be in a space. To know actually the amount of presence, grit, love, and truth that has to be woven into that moment and given to you, that actually has more power in medicine woven into it than in the moments where everyone's happy and skippy and things are easy and everyone agrees. Like, if we could actually see the truth of what's happening in the fabric of our lives, I think we would be more nourished, especially in the hard times, especially in these times where everything is just asking for you to separate from people, asking for you to judge people, asking for you to isolate yourself and call that healing, or run away from people, or look at people as threats, or just segregate our hearts, our minds, our spirits. And if we could actually look at what was going on, if you could look at, the people working around you that might have the biggest fears you couldn't even imagine, that they're holding in their heart while they're doing a service for you, while they're working on your lawn, while they're painting, your house, while they're stocking the shelves at your grocery store. You're looking at something, but the depths of what it actually holds is so much more beautiful than you could ever imagine. They're holding great fear, great pain, great sadness. And if they're doing what they're doing with great love, and they look at you and smile when you pass by, you would not, to understand the magnitude of what they've given in a moment where they didn't have much to give. Again, if you imagine somebody being a billionaire and giving you $100, you're like such a great person, especially one that tells you that they gave you $100. But imagine a person that only had $100 and they gave it all to you. And that's what people are doing. And that's what we're doing when we show up, when our cups aren't filled, when we have fears, when we're overwhelmed, when we're hurt. And I know for me, I always thought that I had to show up perfect, that my voice had to be clear, my heart had to be clear, my mind had to be clear. And for my medicine, I think that's true. But for spaces and places like this, I think it's so important just to remember what it is to be a human. And a human is somebody that has so much going on, and so much of it you can't see unless you could really look and understand the physical body. And I've been privileged enough for that to be my gift, and for that to have been part of my calling, and even what eventually became part of my profession. But when you see what's written in the body, you would be blown away by the amount of strength and the amount of love that people are standing in to do the things that we don't even think are big. It's huge if you understood what it was required in their heart, their spirits, their soul, their entire being to show up for you. And if we could look at it as them showing up for you, from the people that gather the trash to the people that cook the greatest meals on the planet, to the everybody, we're all contributing to this time. And nobody, unless you really jumped into the body of a person, unless you felt what was pulsing through their veins, you have no idea what they're actually giving to you. And if we could see it, I think it would totally change the way that we're looking at things. It would humble us. It would put us in awe. it would make us love in a way that we've never loved because we've never seen. We've never looked through truthful eyes. Everyone, when I was younger, I've told you the story about me, becoming a doctor and even being in this field and doing the work that I did, and everyone just saying I was naive and had, rose-colored glasses, but it wasn't. I took all of the filters off and I was able to see the truth. And the truth is so beautiful. And the truth does not beg to be seen. And that's why right now, in a world that's screaming for your attention, that's why I keep bringing that up. Not that it's social media that's the problem. It's showing the conversation is not about social media. The conversation is about the power of your attention and the power of the purity of your attention. And can you look at the world you're in through a lens of truth, not through lenses of, all the different things that can change your perspective or create judgment or put this film of, fear that makes everything skewed. And again, look for what's not asking to be seen, and I promise you, it will medicate you more than all of the things that are screaming to be seen. And when you see people around you, and always imagine that they're going through 10 times more than what they show on the surface. And if something is showing on the surface, know that it's 100 times more than anything that you could imagine, because it took that much to show up in their tissues. And if we could see this, I think we would hold each other differently. I think we would care differently. And it would have to start with how you viewed you first. Because, the cruelty of our gaze, like the visual gaze, is affecting ourselves first. And how you see the world is also how you see you. And so again, it is this inner game that's going to have ripples as we change it. But you've got to be willing to do the work, when you're shaky, when you're not your most everything that you want to say. I don't even like putting categories on a human. Humans are so dynamic to even say, like, they're at their best. We're always at our best. Every split second that you're blinking in and out of this reality, you're at your best. Why? Because you're here and you were better than the moment before. You couldn't be here right now. That's the design of your body. That's why you can say that you're always healing, right? And so all of this comes into this time of being alive, but you've also got to realize, look around you. We talk about diversity in the microbiome all the time. Why aren't we talking about it with people, hearts, perspectives, tastes, creativity? It's not a bunch of people that agree on everything that gives life and vitality to this planet. It's a bunch of people that are so uniquely different that we could learn from everybody. And that would create this urgency to be exactly who you are and to not want to copy anyone else, not to want to take anything from anyone else, but to want to receive what's shared with you and to want to give in this beautiful dance of we're all here doing all of this at the same time. And the beauty of it is, the potency and the purity of your note, right? That we've talked about so many times. If it's an orchestra, if it's a song, it's all of it. And if you all had the same note, that wouldn't be a song, right? Or it'd be a song, but just not as beautiful as the song that I think creation is trying to sing through all of us. So again, if you understand microbiome, if you understand diversity of, the soil and of the planet and of everything here, then maybe take into consideration the diversity of people. And that includes opinions, and that includes perspectives, and that includes feelings and sensations and sensitivities and different presentations of being a human being. And then that should start influencing and helping you understand how you cannot fit into an algorithm when it comes to your body. It wouldn't make any sense, and how nobody anywhere could ever tell you exactly what you need to change in your life unless they were literally pulsing behind your skin, feeling everything that you're feeling. And that's the beauty of you. That's the beauty of this experience. And when you start to understand your body and realize that it's the closest relationship you'll ever have, you just think about it. It's literal. This is not a figurative, poetic thing. It's a literal thing. It's the closest relationship you have. And if it is not the best relationship you've ever experienced, with the most, profound just wonder and gratitude and curiosity instead of condemnation, let's work there. Because until you are at home in your own body, we can't be at home in a community. We can't be at home in a relationship. We can't be at home even in a country. And you've got to try to see this for your sake, and then for the sake of everybody else that's sharing this time and space with us. For the time that we only get such a short amount of time. What are we doing with this time? How are we making it better? And again, I always just like to start exactly where you're at. And first and foremost, that's going to be you with your body. And that's why it's of utmost importance to purify that relationship, because that's your starting point. That's your giving point. That's what you're pouring from, right? And it matters. All of this matters. And if you just try to see, even if you go grocery shopping tonight, try to see what you haven't seen before. Maybe try to see the worry in people's eyes. Maybe try to see, a mother that probably didn't sleep last night and she's having to deal with customer service and somebody screaming at her, and she's just having, to abide by the terms of service of the business she's a part of, but she's having to emotionally take something that's not even her burden to take. Can we see that? Can we try to see that? And then when you start seeing that, you're going to start feeling differently in your world, and then maybe you will start to understand the difference between manipulating a body into goodness and truly changing a life. Changing a life is not your diet, your supplements, your creams. Remember, that's manipulating you out of feeling what your life feels like. And sometimes we have to go into life and look at things in a different way before you'll ever know how to change, right? You can't make decisions out of confusion and think that those won't be confused actions, confused answers, right? You've got to go and be determined to see things, and not to look where everyone's pointing, but go and see what, again, is not being pointed at. And that, again, it would change how you felt about so many different things, and it would destroy so many illusions that create so much of the other that we're having to fight and deal with, and all the things that you're trying to push out of your physiology because it doesn't feel good here. And instead of acting like it does and trying to, increase serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin through all these artificial and even, truly physiological ways, but they're not true, right? It doesn't mean they're wrong. A right answer and a truth are still two different things, right? So you've got to see where, if your body is saying something, there's a reason. If your hearts are hurting right now, there's a reason. But the airways are not going to tell you the truth of it. They're going to feed the fear. They're going to feed the separation. They're going to feed everything, because they benefit on every angle on the other side. And so this is a place to empower yourself through just first and foremost washing everything out, cleaning up, and being like, what is it actually? What is it actually? Not what will somebody tell me about it, or what does it look like, or again, what does it feel like? And have you even thought to feel the people you walk past at the grocery store, and not in a, literal way? In a way, everyone's saying they want their intuition, but when our intuition speaks, we try to cover it with something because it feels uncomfortable in our tissues. So can we deal with the discomfort would be the change? Can we deal with, the judgments in a world that's so far away from seeing what's actually going on? Can you be the weird one? Can you be the sensitive one? Can you be the one that shows up with a shaky voice because you feel things? Can you? Right? I wrote a poem a long time ago. I think it's worth putting back up. But it was just talking about, it was like this situation where I was like feeling really positive about myself and a lot of healing that I was doing with my skin, and somebody had taken a picture of me and put a filter on it, and it broke my heart. And it just devastated me because I had worked so hard on my own judgments of myself. And so it was like this moment of like a gut punch that I wasn't ready for, but in a way it was the universe or God or whatever you want to call it saying, but have you really worked on it? Have you really worked on it? And it made me see it again from a different layer. But then I realized, it's our job to clean up our corners of the world, right? And it's our job to not demand from something bigger, something that we're not even giving to ourselves, that we're not even giving to our loved ones. And to clean up something at the level of even the government is so far away. We've got to clean up in our hearts. We've got to clean up in our own skin. And this has absolutely nothing to do with our products. It has absolutely everything to do with what's pulsing in our veins, what's pulsing in our minds, what's saturating our cells because of our choosing. And again, it feels uncomfortable. You're gonna feel uncomfortable. How can you be okay with feeling uncomfortable? And if you don't hear anything from this live today, how can you live as beautifully as you can, as truthfully as you can, not seeking comfort, but being okay and being very aware that you're gonna be massively uncomfortable? Can you still speak your truth if your voice shakes? Can you still show up even when your skin's having a bad day? A bad day. It's never bad. Can you still love when people aren't loving you? Can you still give when people are taking things? It's you with you. It's the integrity of you. And think about what that would mean to your tissues, right? We talk about leaky gut all the time and leaky blood-brain barrier and all of this language that we put into what we call medicine. It's all a mess. It's all a mess. And it's a bunch of really complicated words that are pointing so far away from what actually needs to change. And that's the truth. That was the big aha revelation, even in my own journey of going, and becoming a doctor and getting all the titles and doing IFM and doing this and doing that and doing it all, to find out that they don't know what they're talking about at best. And if we were being honest, we would at least start there. This is what we think we know, and this is what we're calling it. And this is the best way that we've identified on how to try to measure something in the blood, and this is what we've called it, and this is what we've called normal, and this is what we've called abnormal. But all of these factors can change if you sneezed before the needle went into your arm, if you were scared before the needle went into your arm, if you were afraid of a needle, if you had a crush on the practitioner, if you laughed before you walked in. But again, it's better to make it seem like we're so certain about these things, and we're not, right? Doesn't mean that we're not learning beautiful things, but it's a mess. And part of that is what you're feeling, and part of that, even, me going from doctor to unlicensed to taking a pause, is because of all of this, of, how do we do it the most beautiful? How do we clean up the mess? And it's not because we don't know something or we've never had experience in it, right? My work didn't come from me not doing labs, not doing imaging, not being in the allopathic hospitals. It came from doing all of that, right? So it wasn't just a blind, I actually think that you're fortunate if you grew up with a family that had awareness outside of that, traditional allopathic model, but that wasn't me. And so, even for my journey to get to this point, it was a lot of, you can even call it ego deaths. Language kind of separates people, but again, just for sake of time, right, in minimal words, you know, you have to take yourself off of that pedestal when you go into this field, and to do it out of awareness instead of lack of awareness is two totally different experiences. And so, you know, it's not that I come here because I've never done those things. I come here because I have, right? And it's a mess. If we're being honest, it's a mess. And you feel that mess, right? You see the mess. You see the mess. How can we spend tens of thousands of dollars on functional testing and nobody's getting better? Everybody is just covered up in supplements. Are we doing better? Really? Are people more alive? Are they living more, traveling more, experiencing more? Are they more emotionally available? Are they more open to experiences, more, you know, flexible in their minds? Are they creating something more beautiful now? That would be medicine. That the people are better, that our hearts are more open, that we're less guarded, we're less fearful, we're contributing more, right? Then I would say that we're healing, right? And again, we'll get to a point where we separate the healing that's always happening. And I even think this time is a healing expression in the world, you know, much like 2020. But I just wanted to come and bring this to you before I hop over to the other side. Make it your own journey. Make it to where you don't want to just read about swimming. You don't want to talk about somebody else's experience of swimming, but you want to get in there, you know, swallow water, struggle a little bit, but come out and have that, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. Not because I read it enough or ingested it enough, because I actually got in the water and I started swimming, and things that no words could ever describe have come into my awareness. And now I'm going to try with all my might to put a language to the poetry that I experienced in the water. That's the difference. Don't try to borrow somebody's confidence. Don't try to borrow, you know, somebody's belief. It's counterfeit until it's yours. And the price you have to pay is discomfort. The price you have to pay is being somebody that they don't like. Disappointing people, changing. Oh, you've changed. Yes, I have. You should. I hope you do too, right? That's the price that you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna have to, you know, pay the price of people not liking you, not understanding you. And literally pay for it. You've got to get to a point where you're like, you don't have to understand me. I do. You don't have to respect me. I do. And how do I gain my own respect? How do I gain my own, you know, just faith and trust? Well, how did I live yesterday? What animated my actions? What were my motivations? If I really, really dissected it down and used my attention on myself instead of everything that's begging for it, if I really picked apart my actions in the day, what are they? What's the chemistry of those things? And if I put that in a glass and I drank it 4 times a day, how would I expect my body to feel? Right? Everyone, if you have any confusion when I say your life is your medicine and you think that that's vague, go make it literal. If you put your judgment of another person in a glass, would you drink it? Would you pay for it? Would you put it in a syringe and put it into your veins? What about the reason you went to work? What about how you feel about the person sitting across the table from you? You think it's your food that matters more? Or is it just easier to focus on what's on our plate than what's in our hearts? What's in our minds? Because that's going to make us do something. And it's us. You're going to have to sometimes be the bad guy. You're going to have to sometimes be somebody that gives everybody the ick. You're going to have to be the person who's, you know, not... I mean, we've all been told it. You're too much this, you're not this, you're not this. Like, I know. you, like maybe we had a say in picking out this flesh suit, but it was part of the deal. And here I am, right? And, you know, I recently watched Troop Zero. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to watch it. I recently watched it with my boyfriend, and I cry every single time, but it's just so powerful. And I think that the more, and maybe that's what I'm doing even in this today, you know, not being the perfect, everything's going great. Life is beautiful, yes. I make the most out of every single day, yes. There are no challenges, absolutely freaking never. That's never a thing, so let's not act like that. But can you persist even with, right? How do you persist even with? And that beautiful part, my favorite part in Troop Zero, I don't know, am I going to spoil it? I don't know if I should spoil it because it's such a beautiful part. But there's this part where the little girl, she has, you know, a symptom, if you will, and it embarrasses her. And there's this one scene where it happens, and all of her little quote-unquote weirdo friends step up and they grab her hand. I cry now. And it's so precious because it's so human. Instead of hiding her and being like giving some reason or saying that it's something that it's not, they're saying, yeah, sometimes I'm an absolute mess. Sometimes I'm sensitive. Sometimes, you know, I want to tell you what happens in the movie, but I don't want to spoil it because it's so precious. Sometimes that happens as a little kid going through a lot. And, you know, to step up and love people in a way like those little kids demonstrate love. What they demonstrate on that stage is true love, right? And it's so powerful. And, you know, even how they're like, do you see us more when we're all together? Just that thought. And like, you know, I've even told my own experiences of everything that I dealt with healing my own skin or allowing the process of my skin healing me, which is now what I see. And how, you know, when I was just at my lowest, how when I let that be seen, another woman loved me in the most beautiful way, and she's forever in my heart, and I still don't even know her name, where she rolled up her sleeve to let me see her imperfections. And it impacted me so much, that it's one of the most powerful memories I have. More than any cream, more than any herb that I learned about in medical school, more than anything that you think would transform your life. A woman at a grocery store who rolled up her sleeve to show me where she was imperfect too, and said, you know what, it's okay, so am I. That was medicine. So think about it differently. Don't ask to be spoon-fed everything. Try to think through these things on your own. What if I knew that my whole life was medicine? How could I look at it to see the truth in that? Not, how is that not true? Or why is it so vague? Go find it. And then how could you make your life medicine? Because imagine this. Imagine a reality where you didn't have to manipulate your body out of the effects that it's having, when all it's trying to do is saying, hey, this hurts, that burns, that is toxic, that is poisonous, that feels good. And what if you listen to it instead of trying to sweep it under the rug, cover it up? You know, think about even, you know, the beautiful things that happen in the body. Like when it talks through a giggle, when it talks through goosebumps, when it talks through, you know, an increased heart rate when you're around somebody you love, when it talks when the pupils dilate because you're attracted to somebody. And we're like, oh, we love when the body talks. But then when it talks through what we call anxiety, because we've called it something, when it talks through a skin rash, when it talks through a stomach that is not digesting food because it shouldn't, and then there's repercussions to that. And we're like, oh, it's messed up. No, it's talking. It's the same thing animating that as what was animating the dilation of your pupils when you saw somebody you loved. It's the same thing. It's just asking for you to listen instead of saying, I don't like what you're saying. I'm either going to run away, cover you up, right? We talk about relationships all the time. There's this language that's, in this story around relationships and all of these different things and calling it all these different things. Again, start with you. Are you, avoidant to your own body? Are you codependent on a medical industry or a way of thinking? Are you anxious in living? Think about it again, you with you in your life. Things that nobody would ever have the answers to. Even working with people one-on-one, I always felt where there was something behind a door, but they didn't want me back there. And I honored that. But I would always pause and say, right here, when you leave this space, you go behind that door because there's something there that needs to be seen. Just you. The world doesn't need to see it. You don't need to tell anybody about it, but there's something behind that door that your body's been asking you to pay attention to, and you've locked it up. So go there. And again, this is not, we think, again, everyone wants to go to traumas and make it more simple. I promise you all of your traumas showed up in your day-to-day. And if you paid attention, you could start seeing them, and you could start changing them in a beautiful way. Again, they're not even wrong. All right. So my heart needed to come and share that with you. The purpose was actually to tell everyone on the subscription page. We're going to go over there because there were a lot of emotions. I'm sure you could feel it. They're still there. But I wanted you to feel it. I wanted you to feel just humans being human. We're showing up and we're contributing in beautiful ways, and we're going through hard things, and and we're all doing it at the same time, right? And it's so important. It's so important. And maybe if I'm putting myself in the hot seat, if we show some of our wounds in real time, maybe we can medicate somebody else that has one too, right? So again, think of even that story of my dad and his dog. It got me all emotional in the beginning. We'll end here with that. When his dog died, his uncle asked if it bothered him that his dog died. And he said yes. He was mad about it. And then his uncle just said, good. That means you're going to be okay. You wouldn't want it the other way. So think about that. Put that on your body. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Especially when your television is on? Are you feeling frustrated when you're on this app? Are you feeling anxious in the streets? Are you feeling sad in the grocery store? Maybe there's a reason. And maybe that's worth your attention more than everything screaming for it, more than everything dancing for it. Not that it's bad, but maybe it's worth your attention, right? And again, the conversation on attention is to show you the power of it. What could we do with the attention that we're giving here if we put it into the people we walk past on the streets? If we paid attention to something more than just what was on the surface? And if we wondered if maybe they were afraid of something we would never even have to be afraid of while they were giving to us. Or maybe something broke their heart and they still have to show up and they still have to make money and they still have to pay the bills, but their heart's broken and they're standing there with a broken heart. Could we have compassion for those people that are standing with broken hearts in a lot of different places? Just like we would have compassion for somebody in a wheelchair still trying to do manual labor. What if it's the same? Can you consider it? Can you try to see your world more beautifully? Can you just try to see people? Not what they're showing, not how they're hiding, but what's hurting under how they're trying to hide it. And maybe we can start being medicine too, right? Because we talk so much self-oriented medicine. Your life is your medicine, yes. But I mean that in every direction. So maybe give a day to focusing on being medicine for other people through your motives, through your intentions, through what you do when nobody's watching, how you do it, why you do it, how you show up, and even just how you pay attention. All right. Your body's perfect. It's always healing. Try to go into the truth of it. Don't just on those things. And know that everyone is carrying a lot in their hearts. And maybe before you get frustrated at somebody, pause. Even if all you can do is pause. Because your emotions almost always don't have anything to do with the person that's receiving your emotions. And think about how we're rippling that through our communities, through society, through the world. And maybe do your part on managing what's in your veins, what's in your heart, what's in your mind, so we don't become contagious in a negative way, but we become contagious in a beautiful way. Because that's the truth. You impact every room you stand in. And it's not just through the sharing of your microbes. It's a literal, measurable, tangible thing. So pay attention to how you stand in rooms, right? And do it with integrity, do it with love. And even if all you can do is try to look at things that maybe you've never seen before, I think it would be worth your time. All right, we're going to hop over. Thank you all for being here.